Lloyd Vance's Insider Football is back for another week on the Coastal Sports Network in 1029 The Game. I'm Lloyd Vance. So glad everybody could join us this evening. Tag team partner Kevin Midgette is back with me as well. Kevin, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well, doing well. We're finding out who's the contenders and who's the pretenders now.
Yeah, it's that time of year, and there's 18 weeks of regular season football, and it's going too fast, Kevin. And I'm like, oh man. Next thing you know, I was just talking to Duncan. I was like, what am I going to watch after the NFL is over? So, got to enjoy it while it's here. I'll start local as I always do, Kevin. And Duncan and I were talking before you came on. The Philadelphia Eagles, they won the game the other night on Monday Night Football. They win 10-7 over the Green Bay Packers. Is this a game fans should be happy about? How are you feeling as a Philadelphia Eagles follower after this victory? And where does the team go from here?
I think it's kind of like we said once again last year with the Kansas City Chiefs, who were the champs until they went, you're the champs until you lose. So the Eagles are the defending champs. What did Kansas City do? They won a bunch of games they shouldn't have won. They won some ugly games. And that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing this year. They're finding ways to win games possibly they shouldn't win. So that going forward, that's a good thing. The A.J. Brown situation, though, that's becoming a dilemma. And now you have coaches involved, plays going rogue now that they're calling their own things that aren't supposed to be called. So that could be something going down the road that could blow up in their face.
Yeah, Kevin, it's definitely some foreshadowing in terms of this team. A lot of talent on them. And the A.J. Brown situation, he had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 13 yards, a long of 7. You can see that he's about to lose his you-know-what in terms of not getting the football. Yes, they're winning games. Should he be quiet? I mean, should they placate him? What can this team do to bring him into the fold? He's such a big talent, and they need to find ways of using him.
It's fractured at this point. I don't know there was rumors last year. Remember him with his book on the sideline, and all of a sudden the book becomes the number 1 bestseller because A.J. Brown's holding the book on the sideline. Everyone's talking about the diva wide receiver. I went through the TO years. That was real diva stuff right there. The man's doing crunches in his driveway with camera crews around him. That was, diva stuff. And I've said before, what he's doing right now is like a toddler going boom boom in his diaper. It's a little, it's not even like a big diva thing. It's just like he's whining. He's a petulant child right now. You're winning football games, and isn't that what you want to do? And you know what it is? He won the Super Bowl. He got his ring. Now it's the accolades. Now he's thinking about his Hall of Fame resume. And I think that's what's creeping into his head right now.
Yeah, there's some good points there, Kevin. And I think he also is looking at what Justin Jefferson's making and Jamar Chase. He feels like, I should be paid like those guys. I should get the same amount of targets. I mean, he's probably looking at what's going on with JSN and how many catches he's getting and all the headlines. And look, the Eagles are a run-first team. That's their specialty. They have the big mauling offensive line. They got Dickerson back, and they're at full strength. They have Steen, and I know Lane Johnson was in and out of the lineup the other night, but he was there, and Toth is the only one that's a non-starter. He's in there for Jurgens. So they want to run the football and then go play action from there. So is it on Patullo? Is it on Sirianni? Who's going to fix this thing? Everybody said, trade deadline, they'll fix it. Howie will send a packet, but you just couldn't do that. And that's what Howie did. So how are they going to fix this thing? It's crazy we're talking about this. They're 7-2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. And the thing is, Lloyd, I don't think they have the personnel in the clubhouse to fix it. The locker room guys aren't there, I don't think, to rectify the situation. And from speculation is with the 4th down play, Jalen and AJ may have gone rogue and to run that play. And if that's the case, that's Jalen maybe just trying to shut up and appease AJ. At the same time, it didn't work. So now you got guys going off script right now that can affect the outcome of the game just to make this guy happy. I don't think they can do it. I think basically you try to do the best you can this year, and then I think you have to cut ties.
Yeah, Kevin, I definitely think in the offseason they're going to rectify this situation. And look, the draft is a lifeblood of a good team. And I think that's what the Eagles are going to do. They're going to go to the draft. There's so many good young receivers coming out of colleges, NFL ready, like a Mecca Ibuka. You saw that this season. And they can find somebody that's going to be less of a headache. They already have, Devontae Smith, who's playing at extremely high level. Broke that game over with that, I think it was a 36-yard touchdown catch. Uh, just talk about how well he's playing. And is he becoming more 1A? Because he's always been considered, 1B to A.J. Brown.
Yeah, the Slim Reaper has always been a favorite of mine. Great nickname. He's always been the teammate guy as well. He's known Jalen for a long time, and he's been that guy. He's a clubhouse glue guy. He's a locker room glue guy. He's not the guy who's going to rock the boat. And that being said, is it a 1A, 1B? Is he getting the looks in all what he's doing right now because AJ is being covered? Is maybe AJ dogging it out there? I don't know. But Devontae Smith, he's showing up. Dallas Goedert is having a great year this year for him, at least scoring touchdowns wise. So they have options besides AJ Brown. But yeah, Devontae is really showing out this year.
Yes, and the Eagles are just stacking W's. They're now 5-1 in games that are one score, so 7 points or less. They're winning these games, and as you said earlier, you're like, okay, they're winning, but they're stacking wins, and that's all you want to do. They want to get home field advantage. They want to have the playoffs run through Philadelphia, and that's the way it's looking in terms of the NFC right now. And I was on a show earlier in the week, and I'll ask you. The host was like, "Are they really the number one team in the NFC?" And I said, "Yes, they are." Because when you look at their resume, I put down key victories for all the teams. The Eagles beat Kansas City week 2. They beat the Rams week 3. They beat Tampa Bay week 4, and now they have Green Bay in week 10. So are they the best team? I know that Seattle's out there. They're going to play Detroit this week, and then the Rams are playing at high level.
The NFC got a whole lot deeper than we thought it was a couple weeks ago. It's like the Rams had an opportunity to beat them in the playoffs. If it's not a snow game, do the Rams beat them? Who knows? And then the Rams, should they have beat them earlier this year? Yeah, they should have. They should have closed that game out. They didn't. But you know what happened? The Eagles won both those games. Seattle, we don't know yet. It's still the Sam Darnold thing. It's got like 4 question marks behind it. But yeah, they look impressive right now. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But the Eagles are definitely, in my opinion, the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, and you have to put them up there, and very well they could be the best team in the National Football League because as you said, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. So leave them at the top, and when you look at their schedule, they have some tough games. So they have Detroit this week. We'll preview that one. There's 3 big games this week coming up in week 11 that I'm really looking forward to, and we'll break them down. We might even bring Nate in for that. So the Eagles, Detroit, and then the Eagles are at Dallas. They have Chicago, who's rebounded. Uh, the Chargers, who are in the mix. The Raiders at Washington, who's kind of falling apart. At Buffalo, and in Washington. So, the way Washington's falling apart, yeah, okay, the schedule's not as daunting as we thought, but they have an opportunity to really put some space between themselves and the rest of the NFC. And a big thing, Kevin, in this game, it was a defensive battle. Now, I'm an old school guy. You and I grew up watching Buddy Ryan football and Marion Campbell when he was the defensive coordinator. Was doing a great job back in the day. Did you enjoy this defensive battle? And what was your take on Jalen Phillips? I thought he was just tremendous in the game. Great trade by Howie Roseman. It's looking like so far. I mean, came in there. He had 6 tackles. He had a fumble recovery, tackle for loss, and a career high 7 quarterback hurries. He just seemed to be everywhere in this game.
Jalen Phillips is going to be the best rental they've had in a while because if he plays like he has this past week, they're not going to be able to afford him at the end of the season. That's a thing. So what you're trying to do with a 3rd-round pick is to get a guy to get you back to the Super Bowl and a chance to win it. And I think that was a 3rd-round pick well spent by Howie right there. I mean, he showed why they went and got him.
Yeah, and a big thing, he was playing as a two-way end. I liken it to the way that William Fuller used to play for the Eagles, a guy who was good against the run, but also get that pressure on the quarterback. And that's what you really were seeing from him. I mean, he was shutting down that run. There are a couple plays he blew up, and you can tell he's very happy to be here in Philadelphia. And yeah, I think it was a good pickup. Now, unfortunately, another one of the pickups, and I want to talk to you about this, Jair Alexander. Both you and I were kind of scratching our head last week, and they brought him in. Basically, why are the Ravens getting rid of him? You know what I mean? That was a big question. Well, we found out he may not want to play football anymore. So he's stepping away. He said he's going to get his physical and mental health right to decide what to do. I tend to lean that he's not coming back and the train's going to keep moving without him. What do you think about this whole Jair Alexander situation?
I think in today's day and age in 2025 we live in, if someone says mental health, especially what happened in Dallas the past week as well, it's something that we can't take lightly. And apparently, the man's head is somewhere else. He doesn't want to play football. There's a reason why he was a healthy scratch with Baltimore. So, you wish for him to get everything together on his end. At the same time, yeah, train keeps moving, man. Train keeps moving. It's like barely had him here, didn't play. So it's like, all right, let's keep going.
Yeah, and so the Eagles activated Ja'Cory Bennett, who they traded for earlier. What did you think of Adoree Jackson in this game? He played a lot more on the outside, which allowed Cooper DeJean to stay at his regular slot position.
I think by necessity they have to do that. We've talked about it a couple different weeks on this show. You move Cooper DeJean outside, you're weakening two spots. So as long as you keep Cooper in the middle there, you just have to worry about you have one weakness on the end. So I think the Eagles have to do it that way.
Yeah, and I think they're going to use all hands on deck approach with this secondary, and the major weakness I think though is Kelly Ringo. Just is not that was a bad draft pick. And I feel like they just keep putting him out there because they drafted him in the third round and they want to prove everybody wrong. But he's just making a lot of mistakes. So I think eventually, as the season goes on, the Eagles will probably move him uh, back in a rotation. But overall, great defensive effort. Uh, the other side of it, the Green Bay Packers. What is going on with them? Jordan Love did not look good in this game. He threw for 176 yards, but they're so inconsistent. They beat the Steelers in that big comeback, and everybody's talking about them as a favorite when they traded for Parsons, but they have just not gotten it done. Can they right the ship? Because right now, if the playoffs started today, Green Bay would be the 7th seed.
Green Bay's fallen into that pretender role that I was talking about earlier. You're right with the inconsistencies rather about Green Bay. And if you say they played a tough game against the Eagles, it was low scoring is one thing. The week before, Carolina going to Green Bay and what they did to them. No, that now we have a pattern here. And Green Bay, they're in a pretender role right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're another team. They've had some injuries. They lost Eldon Jenkins, but everybody is beat up this time of year. So you got to play through it. And they did get Christian Watson back, but they did lose Dobbs to a chest injury. So it was fun to watch a defensive battle. I would have liked to seen some more scoring. Brandon McManus, who I've known him and his family for a while, Temple kid, local kid. I knew he wasn't making that 64-yard, but he shanked the shit out of that. On the way out to say it, and it was just a bad situation for him. But you wonder that fourth down call. So many people in Philadelphia are screaming at the TV. I got a lot of texts and tweets on this. Was that the right thing to do? Not punting it there. I just thought it was an odd play, and as you said, they may have gone rogue on that one. I thought maybe, okay, if you're going to do that, run the football and just keep the clock rolling because they were out of timeouts.
It was dumb every which way around it. I mean, they should have punted the ball. They should have ran the ball. It's like they basically chose the worst solution they could have chose, for the problem. And yeah, that's an issue. That comes to the coach as well. And I mean, we make fun of Dan Campbell for doing the stuff that he does sometimes. Sirianni, not much better, man. He pulls some of that gut instinct thing. Well, his guts are wrong a lot of times.
And I think, Kevin, to be honest with you, in his presser, he was kind of trying to protect his guys, saying, "Oh, it was me." Well, if it was you, you know what the hell are you doing, man? Even Troy Aikman and Buck on the commentary were like, This is very odd here, and they give the ball back to them. And if the Packers were more efficient, if they're like a Patrick Mahomes who can get down the field in 20 some seconds and put your team in a good situation, it was scary for a lot of Eagles fans. So they got the win though. As I said, we will preview coming up this big week 11. I do agree with Duncan, in terms of Ringo. There's a comment on here. It says Ringo like Walker for the Phillies, So Taiwan Walker, that's who he's talking about. He's a guy that they kept him around, and it's always like the Phillies fans are always shaking their head like, how is this guy still on a team? So, I think they're keeping Ringo around, and he's another guy, almost like Bradbury from a couple of years ago. The writing's on the wall. They know what's going to happen at the end of the season. They'll probably move on from him, but they're working around it. I think Fangio's doing a nice job, and now he has his Swiss Army knife. Phillips coming over from the Dolphins, so good win for the Eagles. We'll see from there. And we're here on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on the Coast Sports Digital Network. 1029 The Game. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. Wrapping up week 11 a little bit. We started with the Eagles and the Packers. We'll talk about a few of the other games, and then we'll kind of move towards previewing week 11. Hopefully, Nate will be joining us soon, and then we'll just go from there, talking about a bunch of other things. So, we always like to look at if the playoffs started today. So the Eagles would have the bye in NFC. Right now, Seattle's in that second spot. Detroit's moved up to third. You have Tampa looking to win that NFC South that's kind of weaker. They're at 4. And then you have the Rams at 5, who would be a crazy tough wild card team, in my opinion. Chicago's at 6. And then you have Green Bay at 7. And San Francisco would be outside looking at 6-4 at this time.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is Chicago definitely, I mean, they're playing better. They're playing a lot better, that's for sure. San Francisco is leaking oil left and right. With all the injuries they have to be in this position right now, I mean, it's almost like Shanahan, it's like coach of the year votes right there for just getting this team to that place with Mac Jones. The rest of it, though, yeah, you want that bye. You need that bye. Because, I mean, there's some scary teams right there. Some tough matchups. Nobody wants to play the Rams. And also, nobody wants to go to Seattle either. That's never been an easy place to play. So, yeah, it's important, especially for the Eagles, to get that home field advantage.
Correct. And you have Seattle against the Rams this week, another prove-it type game. I talked about the Eagles, Detroit. That's going to be a prove-it type game. But the Niners are very beat up. McCaffrey's playing extremely well for them, but they have injuries all over their defense. They lost Warner, they lost Bosa for the season, and then the offensive line's beat up as well. And unfortunately for them, they have 3 more games before they even get to their bye. So you always try to get that bye week, get healthy, but they may be a team that's so beat up by the end of the season that they fall out of it. But Chicago. Are you buying or selling on them? Ben Johnson's come in there. I just can't buy into Caleb Williams. I just can't. I just feel like he's going to make mistakes. They won a lot of one-score games too.
The one thing about the Bears is they have some weapons on offense. They don't have just like one guy, 2 guys. I mean, you have your backup running back ripping off over 100 yards, So, I mean, they've got like 4 or 5 guys. Loveland's finally starting to come into his own now as well. So, I mean, they have guys they can go to. And one thing I will say about Caleb Williams, how I feel about USC quarterbacks, for better or worse, he buys time. I mean, does it blow up on his face sometime? Yeah. But he lets these guys get loose and gives them time. So, I mean, that's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And it's been working for him. It's moving around. I think having a running game with Swift and the backup running back and Roma Dunzier seems to have a connection with him. They have 2 good young tight ends, and they have a lot of weapons. And as long as that offensive line that they've rebuilt with Tooney and the rest of the guys holds up, they may be somebody that's in the mix. So the Bears, they're at Minnesota this week. That's going to be an interesting game. Then they have the Steelers at Philadelphia, where we'll kind of find out about them. Then they're at Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay at home, and then they're at San Francisco, Detroit. So we're going to find out about the Bears if they're for real or not. Over on the AFC side, Indianapolis would be your number 1 seed. They'd get the bye. Then you have Denver, New England, Pittsburgh at 4, the Chargers, Buffalo at 6, Jacksonville at 7, and then you have KC and Baltimore in those two 8 and 9 spots. So I tend to think that the AFC is going to be shook up here a little. What do you think in terms of the top of the AFC? Is it going to change?
I think Drake May and the New England Patriots have blown everyone out of the water just with what they do. The quickness and what they did with that Tampa Bay game, get a touchdown right before half, open up the second half. What did they do? Bust out a touchdown right away. Travion Henderson, who's been sitting around because they've had these slew of running backs, now finally gets a chance to start, rips off a 69-yarder and a 55-yarder in that game. So, I mean, you got him in the mix now, like we talked about before, you get Drake May a legit number one. Don't give me Stephon Diggs. All right, Stephon Diggs is nice right now. He's not the old Stephon Diggs. You get him a legit number one, AJ Brown maybe. I mean, you could sit there and they're going to be a problem for a while.
Yes, and defensively, they're built in Vrabel's image. You have Robert Spillane there running around making plays, linebacker position. How about Milton Williams? I bet the Eagles wish they still had him. He's playing extremely well. And then they have the big defensive tackle Tonga in there. I mean, he's taking up a lot of blockers. They're even using him in the backfield. So they are a dangerous team. And yeah, I tend to think New England, they're going to be here to stay. They're on a 7-game heater, winning streak. They are going to they're they have the Jets this week on Thursday Night Football. That should probably win. Then they're at Cincinnati. They have the Giants. Then they have their bye. Buffalo, at Baltimore, at the Jets, and Miami. So a mix of tough games, but the majority, I see some layups there. So their record may be very good, and it's crazy. No Belichick or Brady, but the road could go through New England if everything shakes out. Now at the top, are you buying or selling on the Indianapolis Colts? They don't they don't look right to me. Yes, they came off their bye. They beat Atlanta before that. They struggled to do that. That was overseas, but they have a big prove-it game this week there at Kansas City. Daniel Jones is starting to look like Daniel Jones from the Giants. 5 turnovers against Pittsburgh for him, 6 overall for the team. Should fans be worried about Daniel Jones?
I think if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, you should be happy with where you're at right now. You didn't expect to be in this position. It's been the feel good story probably of the NFL this year, what Daniel Jones and the Colts have done. That being said, the NFL is a very smart league, and they've sat there and they've analyzed a lot of film to see how come Daniel Jones has been successful. It's not like this guy's new. They've seen him play many years. So the fact is, I think they've narrowed down how to, stop him from doing what he's doing. So, yeah, I think the league's caught on a little bit, but this is a big week for them, no doubt.
Yeah, and he's going to have to step it up. But first and foremost, if he's smart, he will lean on Quentin Johnson at the right guard position and their running back, Jonathan Taylor. I think you may have had him on one of your fantasy teams, 244 yards in the win. The guy had 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's been playing incredible. So talk a little about him and his impact for the Colts.
Jonathan Taylor this year is Saquon Barkley of 2024. The season that he's having is MVP level type things that he's doing on the field. Now, will he win MVP? No, because we know it's a quarterback award. But is he lining himself up with JSN maybe in Seattle and other guys for Offensive Player of the Year? Yeah, he's at the top of the list. He's that guy this year.
Yeah, and it was an overtime win for the Colts over in Berlin, Germany, a 31-26. But as I said, Taylor was incredible. He had an 83-yard touchdown run, the longest run for a TD this season, 244 in 3 TDs, including an 8-yard game winner. They were smart at the end. They said, you know what? All right, no one else is getting the ball. Set him up and just let this guy eat. So he's been doing a great job. The Falcons, what should people make of Falcons? They're now 3-6. I tend to think I overestimated them. I thought they were going to win the division, but they don't look ready. They just don't.
Yeah, that's a pretender team right there. That's one of the ones. It's like when you get guys, especially a team that when they have a young quarterback, young running back, young wide receiver, you think they're ready to take that next step. Well, this isn't that year. So they have to go back to the drawing board next year. But Michael Penix Jr. is getting one full season under his belt, so we'll see what he learned from this year and can come back next season with.
Right. And speaking of teams that are just not getting it done, and you're like, all right, it may be time. Well, the page was flipped, and it was like, enough's enough. A change had to happen. The Giants. The Giants lose another close game. They also get Darnold, not Darnold, the Jackson Dart. They get him. He gets concussed. They're running him all around, run up the middle. And I think that Mara finally had enough. The Chicago Bears beat them 24-10. It was a close game, but in the end, they lost it. So just about the change with Brian Daboll being out of there. Do you think Joe Shane should have survived? They kept their general manager.
I think neither one of them should have been back this year. I think they should have just cleared house after the season and called it a day. The one thing I'll say, though, the Giants have the best NFL draft of the season on the IR. It's like you take Scatabo, you take Jackson Dart. It's like, hey, those guys look good when they played. So you got them beat up. So is there hope down the road for them? Yeah, but the GM, the head coach, neither one of them should have been back this year.
Yeah, and it was a surprise how that happened. They bring him back, and it's like, okay, you know, you bring him back, and maybe he can save his job because Scatterbo did come in there, and Dart did come in, give him spark, but then Scatterbo gets hurt, and it's just like, where do they go from here? And unfortunately, Dart, he got hit pretty hard, and I don't think he's going to play this week. They lost Malik Neighbors, so yeah, Kevin, with all these young players being out, they need to start rebuilding and think about the future. And I think that's what they finally did because Dayball was dead man walking. So starting anew. And speaking of new, we hopefully he's ready to go. Nate, how you doing, man? Oh,
What's up, fellas?
he's in his dorm room. Nate Vance joining us again. Kevin and I were just talking about the Giants. Now I know your roommate's a Giants guy, Nate. So do you think that was a right call with Dayball, them firing him, and should Shane have survived this situation?
In my opinion, I think both of them should have definitely been fired. We'll see about Joe Shane, but Brian Daboll, he had multiple blown leads these past couple weeks, and as a head coach, you just can't do that. And he had a good season his first season, but if you look at his combined record the past 3 years, it hasn't been good. And at some point, that's just a product of his team and what he's bringing to the players and the coaching staff. So I think all in all, I think he should have definitely been fired. And we'll see about Joe Shane. He's hit on a couple of these draft picks the past couple of years, but he came in with Brian Daboll, so I would assume that they would let him go and let the new head coach come in with his GM and or vice versa.
Yeah. Now, Nate, you're the fantasy football guy. He always tells we're in the league. We're fighting it. I'm in the third position. He's the number one spot.
Yes, I am.
We're playing next week, not this week, but talk a little bit about your team. How incredible of a season has Jonathan Taylor had, and fantasy football wise, regular football wise, and is he a potential MVP candidate?
Yeah, it's some levels of what we saw last year from Saquon. He's having a magnificent season. And one thing that I noticed that he's been doing a lot more of this year that he hasn't done in the past is catching checkdowns out of the backfield, adding that to fantasy value because, a lot of people play in PPR or half PPR, so that's important. And then he's scoring all these touchdowns. He's had 4 3-touchdown games this season, so he's just been having an insane season. I would put him in the MVP conversation, but I just don't think they'll ever give it to a running back again. So I feel like your favorites right now have to be Stafford and Drake May, but he's a lock to win Offensive Player of the Year for sure.
Kevin, jump in here and maybe give some of your MVP favorites.
Well, first, I'd like to start out, Nate, good to see you. Kyler Murray's a bum. He's a bum, and I told you he was.
Jacoby
Anyway,
Brissett.
that being said,
Yeah, he's terrible.
Brissett's killing it right now. No, he's putting up like 20 points a game fantasy. The team stinks, but he hangs numbers. I got to ask Nate, though, what the hell happened to the Buffalo Bills getting rolled by a 2-win team after that big win? Super Bowl teams don't have those kind of letdowns, Nate. Thoughts?
If you look at all the good teams in the NFL this year, they've had a bad loss. This was our one bad loss. We'll be back strong next week or this week, upcoming week against the Buccaneers. I can promise that.
Yeah, it was, it was one of those situations where I was like, all right, get your head from out of your butt. Josh Allen, you're the MVP, and you're just getting worked by the Miami Dolphins. And then they have, McDaniel, the ultimate nerd. He goes out and he's razzing the Dolphins fans at their favorite coffee. I mean, the Bills fans at the coffee spot and everything. But guys, I ask both of you, did McDaniel save his job?
Nate, you go
Yeah,
first.
most definitely. For as long he saved it for till the end of the year. Now I don't know if he'll save it by the end of the year. I don't know if they'll want to switch things up because they, like I was saying about the Giants earlier, but vice versa, they just fired the GM. So I don't know if the new GM is going to necessarily want to have him around, but I do think he's a bright football mind. I think he's good at calling plays, but from all the reports out there over the offseason, over when they were struggling in the beginning of this year, it just sounds like he can't command a locker room too well, and the players just don't take him serious enough. So it'll be up to them to see if they want to keep him. But for right now, I think he's going to keep his job till the end of the year. I don't think we'll see it in season firing from them.
I agree with Nate. I think he's safe right now. He's safe through Thanksgiving. Now, will he get to Christmas? I don't know, but he should get out of the month of November. The one thing I'll say with Buffalo, though, it's like when they are successful running the ball with James Cook, they are very difficult to beat. When Cook can't get off, that's when they're running into problems right now, and that was the issue I think against Miami.
Yeah, and defensively they're very beat up. Benford's been beat up. They're both I think Rapp's out for the season. Um, they lost Oliver. Can Sean McDermott overcome all this, Nate, or is this a situation where it maybe shoulda, woulda, coulda for the Buffalo Bills, and you start talking about this window closing?
The window will never be closed with Josh Allen because he's just one of the best players in the league. I feel like eventually he'll get it done, but this year I just don't think they have a good enough roster. If you look at all the best teams in the league, they have a great supporting cast around them, and I just don't think the Bills have that. I think they have a good O-line, a good running back, but Josh is running around for 15 seconds in the backfield, running around, doing loop-de-loops around the field, trying to find an open receiver, and no one can get open. Don't get me started on Keon Coleman. He's terrible. The defense isn't good. A lot of injuries, but it's just not good in general. So I think they'll get this roster together in the next couple years, but for this year, I don't think they really have a chance at going to the Super Bowl or winning it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough, and their schedule's tough. So they have Tampa, then they're at Houston, at Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, at New England, who we talked about earlier, Kevin and I, how they're ascending, at the Browns, Philadelphia, and then the Jets to close the season out. So, Kevin, no, in your neck of the woods, I predicted this. The Ravens, they're getting right at the right time. 3 straight wins, and they have not allowed more than 19 points in any of these games. It was kind of sloppy at first, and then they took care of business over the Vikings, 27-19. Lamar Jackson even started getting on the edge, running a little bit. What do you think about the Ravens?
The one thing I want to touch on real quick, what Nate was talking about, Josh
Yeah.
Allen. Josh Allen, the parallel to Josh Allen reminds me of Donovan McNabb before they got T.O. They had like Pinkston and Thrash, and you got Shakir and Coleman. Like, they don't have that guy. And even when they had Diggs, it wasn't like he was, once again, he wasn't Diggs, kind of thing. So it's like he needs that guy. Back to the Ravens, we talked about before, they have a very light schedule right now. And this is where they're going to make their run. And this is where Aaron Rodgers looks all of about 104. So they're definitely going to be their division to take.
Yeah, Nate, what do you think about in terms of the Ravens? I know that, Braden, your brother, so that's his squad, and he says Lamar's going to bring him back. Do they think they have a chance? And talk a little bit about the Steelers, because there is some serious regression going on there.
Yeah, I'll start with the Ravens first. I think they definitely have a chance. Uh, that division is just not good. The Steelers are leading it at 5-4 right now, and the Ravens are only a game behind them, and they still play them twice. So I think the Ravens are easily going to come back and win the division. And then when you look at it from there, if they're going to have a home playoff game, and then they're just going to have to, they're probably going to end up being a 3 or 4 seed just because they lost so many times in the beginning of the season. But they have as good a shot as anyone to make it to the Super Bowl this year. I think complete roster, their defense is picking it up at the right time, and when you have Lamar Jackson, you should always be counted in. So I think they have a really good shot. And then the Steelers are just not looking like a great team right now. That defense is starting to pick it up a little bit, but they still have questions in the secondary. They're allowing over the past 5 weeks most passing yards in the NFL, so that's just terrible. They just had Darius Slay go down with injury too, so um, not having these any reliable safeties has really been hurting them. And then Aaron Rodgers is just old, so he's limited, and they just haven't had a running game in so many years now since Le'Veon Bell's been there that it's just inconsistent, and they're just throwing all these checkdowns, stuff like that. They're just an inconsistent football team, and they don't show up week to week. So I don't think they should be taken very serious in the AFC.
Yeah, and Kevin, so the Chargers beat the Steelers 25-10 on Sunday Night Football. This game wasn't even close. The fans were, Steelers fans were out there waving their terrible towels. They probably should have used them to wipe their tears away. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 42 in a couple weeks, and he's looking every bit of it, especially on that safety where Mack got him in the end zone. Is there any chance for Rodgers to clean this up? And with his great team attitude, where do you see this thing going?
Well, we've talked about before about Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not to pat myself on the back. When he started out playing pretty well, they were winning ball games, and it was like, well, let's see how he looks at the end of October, early November, after that body with the years and tread off the tires takes hit after hit after hit. And I just think he's going to get to that point where he's checked out. He's like, all right, I'm done. He just looks like that guy where he's just going to mentally be quit on his team. And another thing I want to say, though, it's like for Lamar, Josh Allen, those two cats, they need to get to a Super Bowl. And the AFC is more wide open this year than it's ever been. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't the old Kansas City Chiefs. They're definitely beatable. So if Lamar and Josh Allen either one of them don't get to a Super Bowl this year, when's it going to be? Because now you got Drake May and Bo Nix stepping up, and Herbert.
Yeah, I agree. And it's all about playoffs or bust for Lamar Jackson. And then the Steelers, they got to find a way, not just get to the playoffs. They got to win a playoff game. It's been since like 2015, 2016, since Mike Tomlin has won a playoff game. And yes, they always get there. Everybody's never had a losing season. And, there was a funny meme out there. Oh, we're on our way to 9-8, guys. So it's looking like it could be that type of year for the Steelers. And we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 1029, The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette, Nate Vance. The MVP race, guys, I know we touched on it a little bit, to me, Stafford is playing at such a high level. I may say Stafford's the leader in the clubhouse right now because we know it's a quarterback award. Am I wrong here, or are you thinking somebody else for the MVP? Nate, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would have if I had a ballot, I would have Stafford at the top of my ballot. He's leading the league in touchdown passes. He's having a great season. His team's tied for first right now in the division with the Seahawks. He would be my first pick, and then I'd probably go with Drake May, Jonathan Taylor. I think Sam Darnold's been having a sneaky good year. He would probably be on my ballot, and then probably Patrick Mahomes too. He's having a really good year. So those would probably be my five guys.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's been the evolution of the season. It started out Baker Mayfield was on top of everyone's list. Then Daniel Jones jumped to the top of the list, And now we're in I think Matthew Stafford is probably the number one pick right now, but Drake May is like number two with a bullet. And we talked about their schedule coming up where he's going to compile more numbers and more W's on that part. So I think it's Stafford or Drake May, but yeah, Sam Darnold out of nowhere, man. It's like literally we made fun of this guy for how many years? And he had we called it a fluke season with Minnesota. And now he just shows up and wins games. So, I mean, if there's like, a third place award, and Sam Darnold for me would be there.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's going to be in the mix. And when he left Minnesota, because they didn't want it, they said, nah, we're not giving you the bag, and Seattle did, to their credit. And Seattle, they have two good running backs, in Walker and Charbonnet, and then they're getting their tight end involved. JSN's just playing out of his mind. Already over 1,000 yards, at 1041, 5 touchdowns. Nate, who's the best receiver in football? That's always a big argument in our house because Braden's a big CeeDee Lamb guy. He said he is the best. Yeah. I think he has empty calorie stats, in my opinion. getting a lot of them when games are out of hand. But I'd have to say right now it's JSN. But Nate, who's the best receiver in football?
It hasn't changed. It's been this guy since he stepped in the league, Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
The ability to run after the catch, can run any route in the book. He's the best receiver in the league.
and
Yeah,
he's
I'm
yeah,
with Nate on that. It's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, he's just unbelievable when he gets on the field. And Justin Jefferson's not too far behind him, but JSN's about to like split them right there and jump right into number 2. But yeah, Jamar Chase for me is number 1.
yeah, and then Chase is playing extremely well and getting Flacco back on the map. But they open Joe Burrow's 21-day window from his toe injury. They're saying he might be able to be on the field by Thanksgiving. Uh, Nate, would that save the Bengals season? Do they have a chance, or can Flacco hold down the fort until then?
No, they got no shot. That defense is terrible. The defense is one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. That Bears game, they just gave up, and then the offensive players, Chase Brown and Jamar Chase, were calling them out, saying they gave up, and that all they had to do was get one stop, and they just can't stop anybody. And when you can't stop anybody, you can't win games consistently. So I don't really think they have a shot.
Kevin, what do
Yeah,
you?
I kind of agree. Unless Joe Burrow is playing linebacker, there's nothing they can do. I mean, if you think about it, Flacco threw for 470 yards at 63 years old, and they sat there and they still lost the game. So the fact they choked those 2 games, it was the Bears, was it the Jets the week before that? If they sat
Yes.
there and they would have won those 2 games, they'd be sitting pretty for Joe Burrow to come back and step in and try to get a push. But yeah, that defense is wretched, man.
Yeah, and you have Hendrickson. He's all banged up. They trade their best linebacker down to the Dallas Cowboys. So there's not a lot there in terms of that Bengals defense. And it's going to be interesting because they're at Pittsburgh. They have New England, at Baltimore, at Buffalo, Baltimore again, at Miami, and then they have the Cardinals and the Browns to end the season. So I see it's getting ugly quick for them because they can have Joe Burrow back and they'll put up some stats and possibly I don't think Zach Taylor's in any trouble, but they'll help and him enhance his resume to stay there with the Brown family. But yeah, I don't see the Bengals coming back from that. We're here in Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. All right, we're going to do everybody's favorite thing for each week: game ball winners and lackey for week 10. I know we're a little out from where we were, but since we weren't on Monday night because of the Eagles game, I'll go with the lackey first. I'll give mine. I gave my lackey to Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen. His team they lost a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter to the Texans. The Texans came back on them, won this game. At one point, it was 29-10. They're terrible. They allowed 412 yards. They allowed 5 sacks. They had 9 penalties. I mean, the Jaguars are just a mess, and I think it's just a matter of time before they are out of the playoff mix. So they're my lackey. Kevin?
Yeah,
Oh, good, Nate.
my lackey's going to Brian Daboll. Like I was saying earlier, his fourth uh, game blown of up 7 points or more in the fourth quarter, and now he's out of a job. So that's a lackey if I've ever seen one. So I'm giving mine to him.
Okay. Now, I want to start this by saying I did not know Nate would be on with us when I had my lackey pick to the side. I'm really not just doing it because you're on, man. The Buffalo Bills are my lackey of the week. You cannot win a big game as for a team that's supposed to win a Super Bowl or compete to win a Super Bowl and get rolled by a 2-win team. You can lose a close game, you don't get rolled. And that team was not ready to play, and that falls on the whole Buffalo Bills organization.
Yeah, and like Kevin and I were saying, at this point in the season, you're giving it to coaches, organization. So that was a bad loss. Another organization that crapped the bed was the Carolina Panthers. I got to throw them for dishonorable mentions. They lose 17-7 at home to the 5.5-point underdog Saints. I mean, that was terrible. That was a chance for them to step in and say, okay, we're for real. And they just showed that they're not ready for prime time. So definitely they get a call out. in terms of game balls, there were a lot of great performances. We talked about a couple guys, but I gave it to New York Jets defensive end Will McDonald the fourth. I mean, he was a big time player for the Jets in their victory. Two in a row for them. They beat the Browns in this one, and the Jets traded away Quentin Williams to Dallas. Sauce Gardner goes to the Colts, but he had a great game, McDonald, for them. 5 tackles, 4 sacks in the win for the Jets. Don't look now, the Jets, they're ruining their draft position. Nate, who you got as your game ball winner?
Yeah, this guy carried me to a win this week in fantasy, so I had to shout him out. Devon Chain scored me 40 points in fantasy. He had 225 total yards for scrimmage against my Bills. He was just killing them. He had 2 fourth-quarter dagger touchdowns on him. Both were 40-plus yard runs, so he played a really good game, so I'm giving him my game ball.
Kevin?
Okay, as much as I want not to call out this guy, Jonathan Taylor, man, that was sick what he did. Come on. He's sitting there over 200 yards rushing, over 30 carries. You do not see that in this day and age, that volume of carries and those kind of yards rushing. Last time I remember, it's somebody like Corey Dillon's ripping off that many yards. That's how long ago you go, So you just don't see that all the time now and go old school like that. So Jonathan Taylor, like we said, he's fringe on that quarterback MVP award. He should be up there receiving first place votes. Will he get it? Probably not. But the season he's having has to be recognized.
Yeah, and I don't have him in fantasy, but I wish I did 50 points in fantasy football. I mean, he just carried guys over the line. So, yeah, good call outs there. And I'll call out Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he was incredible in the game of the Detroit's win over Washington. It's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles try to stop him. He had 142. He had 2 touchdowns, 38.2 fantasy points. So he had a great week. So you got to give him a call out. Guys, the team that he beat, is it time for the Commanders to shut this thing down for the season? I mean, that injury to Daniels was so big, and the team just does not kind of overcome it. Where do you see the Commanders at this point in the season? Should they shut it down and get ready for next year, Nate?
Yeah, most definitely. They're 3-7 right now. They don't have their starting quarterback. They have Marcus Mariota starting. They don't have their star wide receiver. They don't have their star corner and Marshawn Lattimore. All 3 of them are hurt. Right now, they should just shut it down for the season. They need to build through the draft. They need to get better people on the offensive line. They need to get better people on the defensive side of the ball. They need to fill spots everywhere on that defense. That defense is not very good. So I think it'll be good for them. They can keep paying guys because they have Jaden Daniels on the rookie salary, and I think they'll be able to come back next year when he's fully healthy and compete for the division.
Yeah, as far as Washington goes, we talked about before. First of all, they have a lot of old players on that team. They were built for a short, small window last year and this year, basically. With the injuries to Jaden Daniels, it's not going to happen, not with Marcus Mariota. And we talked about it also back in August with McLaurin's holdout and taking him forever to get into camp and everything else. What happens to guys who wait and hold out all that time, even if they get their money? They end up injured all year long, and that's what you got with McLaurin. So Washington, they're done this year. It's like at this point, you want to get a better draft pick, start playing other guys.
Yeah, and he has the quad injury, and I agree with you. I just don't see him coming back. There are it's Lattimore and McCaffrey, so it's just like, yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Now, jumping back to fantasy football, and then, Nate, who is the best tight end in football? I thought, Kevin, Brock Bowers, he screwed me last week. I mean, that was just an awful performance. 3.7 points last Thursday night. That was probably one of the worst games I ever watched, watching Denver and the Raiders. But, Nate, who's the best tight end?
We all know who the best tight end is. It's Trey McBride.
He has him. That's why you see that big cheesy grin on his face.
He's been awesome this year, and who knew that this is a guy that never used to score touchdowns. He had 2 receiving touchdowns in his second year and third year in the league, and who knew all he had to do was get rid of Kyler Murray to start scoring touchdowns. And he's had 5 touchdowns in 3 games with Jacoby Brissett. So he's been doing great, and he's second in yards second in touchdowns, first in fantasy points. So yeah, I would say he's the best tight end.
Kevin, who you got?
Well, I agree with you, Lloyd, because I traded Brock Bowers a couple weeks ago. Now, did it hurt me the one week where he scored like 41 points? Sure, but when he hung that 3 up, yeah, I felt pretty good about my trade. I've been riding with Tyler Warren all year. And the thing is,
That's
you got Tyler Warren on a fantasy scope. You got Tyler Warren. I think I got him in the 6th, 7th round, something like that. And he's been a plug-in starter pretty much from jump. He's solid. He's just going to get better. And also, to keep an eye out, Loveland now is starting to get some looks. So if you can pick him up, I got him off the waiver wire 2 weeks ago because everyone thought he was going to be a bust. I mean, I got him sitting on the bench, but if you can pick him up anywhere, I would do it.
Yeah, he's playing very well. He had that game winner a couple weeks ago, and the crazy thing was I went double tight. I had Gatson out there too, and he gets hurt, and I lose by 4 points. So it's just like you just never know, and in terms of who you should play, not play, and fantasy, it sometimes would drive you nuts. Now it's coming down to that time of year where you're having that get ready for the playoff push, and so how is your? We'll go to your money league team, Kevin. I know you have 11 or 12 teams, but how are you making out overall in terms of your team's performance?
In my Woody's league, I am one spot out of the playoffs right now. I am one of those teams I've scored the second most points in the league, but I've had the second most scored against me because it's all fixed. Anyway, that being said, I went out of my way today to sabotage 2 trades. The 2 trades we're going to go through. I called around and got my veto power guys, and we got it vetoed down, both of them, because you got to play more than just the game on the field, guys. Cerebral as well. So I'm at least doing my part that way.
Yeah, it's all about sometimes picking up a guy, blocking somebody else, and all that. So Nate, talk a little about your team's performance and who are your top guys on your team?
My team's great. As I said, it was going to be the whole year. Quarterback, I got Jackson Dart. He's been doing well for me. My running backs are stacked. I got McCaffrey and a chain. So I told Kevin about McCaffrey all summer. He knew. I knew he was going to have his bounce back year. My wide receivers, Nico Collins, he's kind of been like meh. He's been inconsistent this year, but I traded in the beginning of the season after the suspension for Rashee Rice. So ever since he's came back, he's been amazing for me. I got Trey McBride. I traded for Michael Pittman from you, Dad, so I appreciate you from that. He's been having a great year.
Fleecy old man.
Got Cortland Sutton. He hasn't been too good. And then I got old man Keenan Allen. He's not too shabby. And then Chase Brown. He's been playing better as of late. So right now I'm in first place. I have the most points scored. Only lost twice so far on the year. So we're looking good right now.
Yeah, he's feeling good. He's thinking he's going to get that bye, and that's key, not only in real football, also in fantasy football. Everybody out there, you definitely want to try to get that bye so you can kind of sit on the side. And it's tough though, Kevin, as you get closer to the end of the season. Just talking about the impact of injuries, like too often we're seeing some of you guys get hurt. It helped me this week because I had Henderson. I was able to plug him in there. Stevenson was out, and Henderson went in there, scored some big points. But just talk about the impact of injuries in fantasy football this time of year.
Well, it's one thing I did this year. I went for depth, because I know with the bye weeks and everything else, and like you're picking guys off the waiver wire, there's nothing there. Everyone's been picked over, So I made some trades, and I basically ended up picking up guys like Stephon Diggs. Chris Olave actually has had a great year, for a guy I just picked up out of nowhere. So Olave, I did that. I picked up a couple other guys and threw them in there. Rashad White, who I was going to let go, but then when I found out Bucky Irving was in a boot, I'd use my waiver wire to get my own guy back. But, it's all about depth and having some guys that can possibly go in and get you anywhere from 8 to 14 points. That'll save your week.
Yeah, so it's that time of year. We're coming down the stretch, and yeah, I think I'm going to sneak into the playoffs, and then it's going to be fun to see. Kevin says it's collusion. I think there may be 3 Vances in the final 6 in the playoffs. We'll see if Braden could sneak in there. Nate, obviously, he's working for that bye, and how good are kickers now, Nate? I mean, these guys are making 70, 60, 70-yard field goals. Is how important is it to have a good kicker? And talk
It's
about
really,
who's your
really
guy in
important.
terms of kicking? Like, who do you think's one of the best kickers?
The best kickers in the league, I think the best is Walker Little for the Jaguars. He just set that uh, set Cam Little, excuse me. Um, he set the record the other day. Uh, he kicked a 68-yard field goal.
Yeah,
No problem. I probably would have made from 70. So he's an amazing kicker. Brandon Aubrey, he's really good for the Cowboys. Uh, there's a lot of guys now in this league that are just you see them consistently making these 50+ yard field goals. And a couple years ago, it looked like it was just like so hard to do. But I feel like more than half of the kickers now, if it's 50 yards, it's automatic. So that's really good to see. And just having a good kicker is like, especially if you're a good team, it's so important to have, especially in the playoffs because these games get so much closer, and you got to win by the margins. And if you're having a kicker that's selling you missing kicks, then that's just a terrible way to lose. So having a consistent kicker that can knock down these kicks is really important.
yeah. And for me, kicker to kicker, if he had just made that 55-yard, I would have won. I mean, so they're frustrating. But Kevin, you're a kicker guy. I know we grew up with like Tony Franklin kicking for the Eagles, and everybody wanted to take their shoe off. Is it at that point that kicker adulation? Because these guys are kicking so well.
We've talked about before. These guys can kick from the parking lot. Like as soon as they get off the bus, they're in range right now. And by the way, Nate, not that you did it with your generation, but everyone growing up when I did tried to kick a football with their bare foot. You know what? It hurts, man. I don't know why these guys even tried to do that. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Put a shoe on. I'm telling you this on fantasy right now. I'm carrying 2 kickers because you get those kickers that they're on teams that score a lot of points, but you know what it is? If they get nothing but touchdowns, that hurts you. You want a team that's good enough just not to punch it in. You want the field goals. So henceforth, I got Bates from Detroit, who I've been riding with most of the year, and then I picked up Myers from Seattle because it depends on the matchup. It's like, all right, are they playing against a good defense? All right, it's going to be more field goals maybe. So you got to play, once again, it's cerebral, guys. Cerebral.
Yeah, you got to think it through. So we're here on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029, the Coach Sports Digital Network, and we're Kevin Midgette, Nate Vance, and we're going to jump over to Week 11 in the last 15 minutes or so of the show. Preview this week. It's a lot of good games to talk about. Some marquee matchups. We'll start with Thursday night. The New York Jets. They're riding a 2-game heater, as I said. My guy Justin Fields. I think he's going. I think he's going to be the starter again. But Breece Hall, Breece Hall's playing pretty well as well. But the Jets are at the New England Patriots. The Patriots have the biggest line of the week. Kevin, I'll start with you. It's minus 13. New England is its game. Can they cover it, and who's going to win?
Can they cover it? Sure, they can cover it. Will they is the question. And I hate any games with that many points, and it's a division game. I mean, as much as I mocked on Buffalo a little bit, I knew it was going to be a blowout game because it's division games for some reason seem to be tighter games, and that's what I think you're going to have with that Jets game. The Jets aren't. I mean, they lost 2 of their better defensive players, and their defensive, fantasy wise, hung like 20 points or something like that. So, I'm waiting for New England for that. Once again, Nate, you said earlier, everyone has that bad loss. I'm not saying the Jets are going to beat them, but I think it's going to be a more competitive, maybe ugly game than people think.
Yeah, Nate, what do you think of your guy, Aaron Glenn, in this game? What's going to happen?
The Jets probably have the worst head coach quarterback combo duo in the league, and when you got that, that's just terrible. It's a recipe for disaster. And New England looks like one of the best teams in the league right now. So I think I would lay the minus 13.5 on New England. I would take them to cover by 2 touchdowns. I think it's going to be it's going to get ugly in that game for sure.
Yeah, I think big thing, guys, is the Jets have been riding this 2-game winning streak. I think they're going to start turning the football over, and Breece Hall is going to try to run it. But we talked about Tonga and Milton Williams, Spillane. That defense is really good for New England, so I think they shut them down. And Fields, I don't even think he's thrown for 100 yards in a lot of these last couple of games, so it's going to be difficult for them. So I'm rolling with New England in that one. Plus, they're the home team. I always tell everybody, Thursday night, ride with that home team. Usually you're going to do all right in terms of putting a little cake on the game. Nate, the next game, and this is kind of to me it's kind of late, but the Washington Commanders 3-7. They're at the Miami Dolphins 3-7. This game's in Madrid. Do you like the early games on Sunday, and what do you think of this one?
I like the early games on Sunday. I'm in college, so I ain't got nothing to do on Sundays. So it's nice getting to wake up early and watch the watch the games. But yeah, if I had to pick somebody for this game, this is not a good game, but I think the Dolphins will probably win this game.
Kevin, what you got?
I think Nate should tell his dad, no, I get up and study and go to the library Sunday morning. That's what I'm doing. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't got time for football games in Madrid.
Yeah, just like we were doing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did. Sure. No, I like the daytime games, man, because they just have them timed perfectly to bleed into the 1 o'clock game. There's only so much pregame show I can watch, man, or have on as background noise. So yeah, I love the European game. Do the people in Europe like them? I don't know. They just give people a bunch of jerseys and put them in the stands. I don't know if they're enjoying the game or not. It's not. They're trying to make it global. I don't know if they're being successful, but yeah, they put a garbage game over there for the people in Spain. So let's go for Washington this one. They're due for Miami. Just got a big win. Miami's coming off the big win and the flight. All right, I'll go Washington to be different.
Yeah. Now Washington. I wanted to get you guys taking this. Deron Payne, and some people are saying it had to do with Trump being in the stands and Amon-Ra St. Brown did homage to him, and Deron Payne hauled off and clocked him. And the Commanders are undisciplined. So I think I'm going to go with Miami in this one. Nate, what do you think of that situation?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know a lot about Amon-Ra, but I watch like his podcast. Sometimes he has one with his brother, and he likes to talk a lot of shit. So he was probably saying something to him, getting in his head and stuff like that, and he smacked him good right upside the head. So it was funny. It was funny to see, but you just can't do that. It's uncalled for. That's just a sign of a bad team right there, and that's what they are.
Yeah, and it was like WWE gets hit, and you go, like, "Oh, what did I do?" Like, you know what you did. Yeah, exactly. So the refs took care of that. But yeah, Deron Payne, he lost his cool. That's a bad loss for them. The next game we'll talk about is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6-3. They're at Nate's Buffalo Bills, 6-3. This is a prove-it game for both teams. Both teams coming off close loss for Bucks, but the Bills need to get back on a horse. Buffalo is a 5.5-point favorite. Kevin, what do you got in this one?
I tell you what, that's a rough stretch of road for the Buccaneers there. You get the Patriots. I mean, no one thought the Patriots were going to be this good this year, but you get the Patriots and the Bills back-to-back, and then you get a pissed-off Buffalo team coming off a bad loss at home. I'm taking the Bills with the points there. Bills lay them on this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills, too, in a bounce back. The Buccaneers are really beat up on offense. They don't have a lot of their key guys, so I'm going to take the Bills.
Yeah, you got Bucky Irvin coming. He might come. He started practicing for them. He has a shoulder and a leg injury, so they're hoping he can be back in this one. I know Baker Mayfield trying to get that bad taste out of his mouth, but as you guys were saying, the Bucs are very beat up. But their defense with Antoine Winfield Jr. is playing pretty well. But I think the Bills need this game more in the games in Buffalo. So look for a lot of Cook in this one, run the football downhill. Maybe they can get somebody else involved. I know one of their tight ends is beat up, but Josh Allen may have to put Superman cape on. I'm going with Buffalo in this one and covering the points. The Chargers, they're 7-3. They're at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're a 2.5-point road favorite. Kevin, are the Chargers for real? And what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think the Chargers are for real, but then again, they got off to a great start. Then they had those back-to-back games where they lost to the Giants, which they should have won, and they had Washington at home. Daniel's first game back from an injury, and they lost that game. So I think what you're seeing with them is the inconsistencies, that go around with a team, that's kind of in the middle of the pack to just above. Now, the thing being said, the Chargers beat Jacksonville. You can pretty much start kicking Jacksonville down the ladder. This is a bigger game for Jacksonville than it is for the Chargers, I'll say, but I'll take the Chargers.
Yeah. Nico.
I don't. Who'd you say was favored in this game?
When I looked at it, the Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite in this one.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville as an underdog in this game.
Oh.
I think they just came off a bad loss. I think they've looked like really inconsistent this year, but they have a lot of good wins this year. Trevor Lawrence, his players, he hasn't been playing as bad as everybody thinks. His players are dropping a lot of balls. Um, I think with how the Chargers O line is just banged up and beat up, I think Trevion Walker and Josh Allen are going to have a really good day out there, and they're just going to put pressure on them and cause a lot of turnovers because that's what that defense does. And I think the offense will be able to move the ball enough to secure the win. So I like them as a home dog this week.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick there because it's tough with the Chargers because, as Kevin said, they're so inconsistent. I mean, they lost to the Giants. Remember that in a game they were heavily favored. So, been back and forth in this one. I think Vidal is coming along for them, and Herbert's making some big plays. But he's another one. You wonder what receiver's going to step up for him. Keenan Allen's looking a little older. Johnston, his hands are so inconsistent. He drops a ton of footballs. They did get Gadsden going, but he has a quad injury. We'll see there. I'm going to go with the Chargers in a close one because I'm buying the Jaguars right now. I think they're kind of not hitting their stride, and that was a bad loss that kind of lingers. So I'll go with the Chargers in a field goal win, probably Dicker kicking one through there. The Bengals are at the Steelers. Steelers are a 5.5-point favorite. What do you think in this one, Nate?
I got the Steelers in this one. They lost a bad one to them on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago. Bengals have the worst defense in the league. I think the Steelers' defense has slowly been getting better. So I think they're going to get after the quarterback, and I think they're going to get a win this week.
Kevin, what you got?
Yeah, I agree with Nate on that. This is the keep Tomlin above 500 kind of win they need. So, yeah, they'll pick up this W right here because if they lose this one, I mean, they're done as well pretty much because they're going to start circling the drain at that point. So, yeah, I think Pittsburgh comes out and wins this game.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, as old as he is, he still can throw the football down the field. Watch for DK Metcalf in this one, hitting some big plays. And a big thing is the Bengals' offensive line is just so inconsistent. I think Highsmith and Watt are going to have a nice game, and you'll probably see some turnovers. So I agree with you guys. Maybe a defensive touchdown. I think the Steelers win this one and cover the number there. This is a divisional battle. The Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Two inconsistent teams. It's a divisional battle, but it's in Atlanta. Atlanta's a 3.5-point favorite. Kevin, what you got?
I think this is a typical game where Carolina, they beat Green Bay, then they had the bad loss in New Orleans. It's like, all right, a normal team would bounce back and come back and win this week. Carolina comes back and still loses this week. But I don't think Atlanta covers a 3.5. I think Atlanta's just enough of a pest to keep Carolina down, but they don't cover the 3.5. So I take Carolina with the points.
Yeah, I like the Falcons in this game. Panthers screwed me last week in my survivor pool. Sold me out.
I told him not to pick them.
Thousands of dollars. Bryce Young's probably him and Justin Fields are probably the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play the sport. So, yeah, I'm taking the Falcons.
Yeah, I took the Falcons too. This is selfish. We're always selfish here, fantasy wise. I need Bijan Robinson to step up. I mean, he's been missing the last couple of weeks. I think he has a good week for the Falcons, has a good game running, catching the football. And Carolina, as we talked about, they're so inconsistent. And defensively, there's really nobody that scares you on their team. So I think the Falcons win this one because they're one of those teams, just when you think their season's over, they'll kind of flick the switch. So I'll go with them in a close win. The next game, the Packers, they need to get right. They're at the New York Giants. The Packers are a 7.5-point road favorite. No Jackson Dart in this game in concussion protocol. Nate, can the Packers win this one?
Yeah, they can. They should beat the Giants. Jackson Dart's out. Jameis Winston's going to be starting. Jameis Winston he's probably going to be turning over the ball a lot like he always does. He'll probably throw for a bunch of yards, and then he'll probably throw for 3 picks. So as long as the Packers don't turn over the ball and stick to that running game, because I know a lot of their receivers are hurt this week, just give the ball to Josh Jacobs 20 times to get out of there with the win. So I think they're going to win. I would take the Giants to cover the points, though. That's a lot of points at home.
Yeah, I agree with Jameis Winston. And that's 2 picks guaranteed. There's no doubt. He's going to throw for 350 yards. He's going to throw probably 2 or 3 picks, 2 or 3 touchdowns. And the thing is, if you're the Packers, you've had these two really poor offensive showings the last 2 weeks. You have to do something productivity wise on the field. And the fact is, Jameis Winston's a scary guy. You'd rather play against Russell Wilson right now if you're Green Bay instead of Jameis Winston because Jameis don't care. He's just going to throw it, man. So I think it's going to be a more interesting game than people think.
Yeah, Kafka, you saw right away. They don't want Russ cooking it all. They said, nope, put Winston in there. And it's interesting because they've kept Russ around. They should probably just traded him, let him go someplace else. He definitely is not going to be there next season. So, but I do agree with you guys that Green Bay kind of gets right in this one. Micah Parsons probably makes some plays because he didn't do a lot against the Eagles. So the Giants' offensive line is not blocking anybody. So I think the Packers win this one, but it's going to be close because the Packers, they constantly play close games. So I'll go with that one. We're going to jump around here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102.9 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network coming down the stretch. I'm here with Nate Vance and Kevin Midgette. All right, we have some marquee games. Seattle Seahawks 7-2. They're at the LA Rams. Now this division, they beat up on each other, so it's going to be an interesting game. I'll start with Nate. Who do you think wins this one and why?
I was saying earlier that Sam Darnold's in my MVP conversation, but I still don't trust him. After all them big spots last year, this is a big spot to whoever wins is going to be leading the division. So I like the Rams in the spot at home. I think their offense is going to be too much for that good Seahawks defense. And I think Sam Darnold's going to make some crucial mistakes in this game that they'll be able to capitalize off of. So I'm taking the Rams.
Yeah, I'm with you on one thing. It's just if I think the Rams win this game, but I think if it was in Seattle, I would pick Seattle to win this game. That's how close it's going to be, and that's how much home field would mean. But yeah, I think Stafford takes the leg up furthermore on Darnold for the MVP conversation.
And it's an interesting one. The Rams are a 3.5 point favorite, but as you said, that Seahawks defense, DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 touchdowns last week, and Williams is getting to the quarterback, and I think they're going to have Jones back at linebacker. But I do think that the Rams are ascending. They're a team that just has that look right now. Even Kyron Williams is protecting the football, running it well. Receiver-wise, Devontae Adams, you cannot forget about him in the red zone. And Stafford, as we said, playing at MVP level. So, I'm going to go with the home team there. I'm going to go with the Rams, but that should be an interesting, exciting game. Another marquee game you definitely got to talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs, 5-4, coming off their bye. We know Andy Reid in a bye. I used to cover him in terms of buys, and he'd always find a way to win. But they're at the Denver Broncos, who lead the NFL with 46 sacks, 8-2. Now the Chiefs are a 3.5 point road favorite. So, Kevin, what do you think about this one?
Uh, I'm like you in this respect. Andy Reid off a bye is usually a guaranteed W. And even though it's an older Andy Reid, it's a different team. I think Kansas City wins this game. I think they find a way to win this game because once again they still have to stay in the mix too. Nothing's given to them, and they haven't had the best of years. They need this W.
Yeah, the Broncos are probably the most fraudulent team in the NFL right now. Bo Nix, he's not a good quarterback. I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to expose him. And I think this Chiefs offense is one of the best in the league. So I like the Chiefs, and I would lay the points on them too.
And the thing is, Denver's been winning all these games in a row, but it's 7 games in a row. But it's been close. Think of that 13-11 victory they had overseas. And Nate's right. They're just very inconsistent. Nix does make some good throws here and there. Dobbins is banged up. I don't think he's going to play in this game. But they're calling cards their defense. But I think Patrick Mahomes have enough to kind of carve them up. The last marquee game we'll talk about here and close the show out. The Detroit Lions 6-3. They proved that they could play outside last week in Washington. They're at Philadelphia, who seems to be red hot. The Eagles are 7-2. Nate, what do you think about this game? The Eagles are a 2.5 point favorite.
I'm taking the Eagles, and I'm taking the points. The Eagles are the best team in the league right now. They've showed that week in and week out. I know they had that little 2-game losing stretch, but they look like the best team right now. And I think they're going to try and get A.J. Brown involved, make him stop bitching and crying about not getting his targets and all that. So I like them to get the win at Detroit. Every single game that good team that Detroit has played so far this year, they've lost to. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost a bad one to the Vikings, and then they lost to the Packers early in the season. I just don't think this team is the same without their two coordinators. So I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm going to go the opposite on this. I'm taking the Detroit Lions to win this game.
That's Philly Kevin, everybody.
I'm telling you right now, I did it last year and they won a Super Bowl. I kept picking them to lose, so we'll see how this works again. See, it's cerebral, guys. I'm being cerebral about this. But I do think the fact that this A.J. Brown thing is going to blow up on their face. And it's going to sit there and it could spiral the season. It could be on a national TV kind of thing to happen. Because if they try to force feed him, you don't think these other teams see that A.J. Brown, what he's doing, and they might be trying to force feed him the ball? That could backfire in the Eagles' face right there. And I think Detroit comes out and takes a W from them.
It's going to be interesting because, I think it's going to be a field goal game. And Jake Elliott at home, and I think the Eagles will find a way to win this one. But it's much like we were talking about the Chiefs last year. They're just finding strange ways to win these games, and you just wonder when that luck's going to run out. But I think Phillips will be able to attack the Lions line that's kind of beat up. Penei Sewell, they're not sure if he's going to play. The Eagles do have to shut down Gibbs in the backfield, though. So it should be a close, tough game, but I'll go with the Eagles in this one, and that would be a close cover. So another great week here on Lloyd Vance Inside of Football on 102.9 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Thanks for Kevin and Nate joining us. It's a good show. It went fast. Anything before we close out, guys? All right, not a lot to say.
Kyler Murray's a bum. I want to say it one more time and get it in there.
I guess Nate wants to say
he's going to be starting quarterback of the Steelers. He's going to rejuvenate his career next year.
That'll be interesting in a place where, he's got small hands playing in the cold weather. But we digress. We'll talk to you next week here on Lloyd Vance Inside of Football.